Domain 1 is all about having leadership view of how to, govern and manage security. Domain 2 is about, how to actually protect, how to identify. Okay, you need to understand what are the systems you have, what is the kind of data you're handling, and how to protect it. Okay, it deals with two things majorly, that is assets and data. Okay, we'll define some very simple concepts. Okay, what is an asset? Okay, an asset is something of value. And it might have a tangible effect. It might be something tangible you can touch, you can see, you can feel it, right? It can also be intangible. What are intangible assets? Your reputation, your character, your integrity. These are intangible assets, right? Truthfulness, okay, can be an asset, right? But once we talk about information systems, we talk about information assets. The information assets are assets which are handling information, right? So now information assets which are handling information. So what is the source of information? The source of information can be the human beings themselves, from where the information generates. Okay, it might take many kind of forms. It can be in the form of data, which is, might be electrical data. Okay, it might be electronic data, it might be physical data. What is physical data? Okay, a piece of information written on a piece of paper is a physical data, right? Electronic is something which we are, communicating through our computer systems. And electrical could be, first generation equipment, right? When we were transmitting information using radio waves or telephones, which were, classically not electronic systems. They were all classically a mix of electronic and electrical devices, right? So data can be in any form. And today, majority of data is in the electronic form. We rarely use any systems which, transfer data electrically, other than maybe in OT systems, maybe. And physical data, handling does happen. And that's why probably physical security also is important as far as protecting data and protecting assets are concerned. Now, the systems which, the systems which are handling this entire, information cycle are basically your assets. Now, if the data which you are handling is, say, secret in nature, that means any system which processes this data has to be labeled as a secret. Why? Because at all times you need to maintain the same amount of, security controls which this piece of data requires. Okay, that is the connotation, and that's why this second domain of asset security. The second domain is not data security, it is asset security. Now, once you say asset, it is also the system and also the data. Okay, and that's why it's called asset security. I hope that is clear, because many of the time people say, "Sir, you're talking about data, but why is this domain asset security?" Because to understand that data ultimately is processed by systems, and systems are your assets, and data is just part of the system, right? Clear? Okay. So first,
can you repeat? Can you explain once again, please, Samir?
Yeah. See, let's Ismail, let's do email. Let's take email, right? Okay. I want to send an email. So what is it that is involved in sending an email, right? Firstly, you need information which you are going to process in your mind, right?
Right.
It is in your head. First thing is you want to be really sure of the email which you write. You put it on a piece of paper, right?
Okay.
And you write it down, that what is it that I'm going to express in the email. Once you've formed your mind, then next step you do is you open up your laptop, okay, and open up your email and you start typing, right?
Right.
And then you send this email. Now, how is this email handled? This email is handled by your SMTP server. Somewhere it sends to another server, sends to another server, sends to multiple servers, and finally reaches the outbox, okay, or the inbox of your desired addressee, right? This is where you wanted to send. And finally, this individual opens up his laptop, opens up his email, and reads the information which you provided, right?
Right.
Okay. Where is the data here? Okay. So if you look at data, the data is firstly in an intangible form inside your head, right? Second is it is in a tangible physical form, right? Then it took the form of an electrical form, electronic form, right? It
Right.
became some kind of a digital data, right? And then your laptop processed it and sent it via certain protocols, and it landed up at the desired end state. And from there, the individual again probably put it in intangible information is in that head. He may produce it, he may take a printout and might process it. Now, if you look at this entire thing, was only a very small part of it. Data was this particular information took the form of data here. This is here, it became physical data,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
This is where it became electronic data. And this is where it became, processed data moving in some form until it reached the endpoint. Finally, again, this information took an intangible form inside the head of the addressee, but he also took out a printout and probably put it in a file or put it for somebody's approval, right? Now, if
Right.
you look at this entire process, who all are involved? Okay, there's a guy involved, you are involved, human being is involved, there's a physical paper involved, there is an electronic device involved, there are servers, intervening servers involved. They all become a system, isn't it?
Right. Right.
And this system is your information system. For this particular piece, this is your information system, right?
Right.
Now, data leakage can happen here. 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 Data leakage can happen anywhere, right?
Right.
Right. And as information security professionals, you are trying to protect information at each and every level. You're trying to protect the information here. You're trying to protect the information here, here, everywhere, right? And how? If it is user, you're trying to train him. You're trying to make him aware. If it is in the paper, you're asking him, after you've written it, please shred it. So what do you have? A clear desk policy, right? What is a clear desk policy? That whatever paper printouts you've taken, please put it in the shredder. You do that, right?
Right.
Okay. Then emails. What do? Okay. You are only supposed to use your corporate laptop or your enterprise laptop. You're supposed to send this email only from your enterprise email and not from your personal email, right? And then it goes through your enterprise management systems where the network guys are taking care of the network security, the email, the server security guys are taking of the server security. If it is a SaaS product, if you have taken an email from Google or Microsoft Office 365, then you have outsourced the security of your email in a way to Office 365, right? You are only responsible for protecting the identity and access management of that particular account. So what I'm trying to tell here is when you look at the assets, these are all your assets. This is your complete asset list. This is your asset. The entire system is your asset. Data is just one small part of it.
Got it.
Got it?
Got it. Nice.
Okay, great. Okay, let's go ahead. So now once we saw this entire system, asset, data, the first thing is to protect something, what is it that you need? Anyone? If you want to protect something, what is it that you need?
List of assets or inventories.
You need the inventory, right?
Yeah.
So first thing is the inventory. You need the asset list because in the info domain, you saw this small email chain had so many, intervening systems or devices in between. So first thing, if you want to protect something, is you need an inventory of assets. Okay. Now, once you have inventory of assets, you should be able to define the kind of sensitivity that it has with the data it processes. Now, if I have an asset, it also is processing some kind of an information or data. I should be able to identify what is the sensitivity of that information. Now, if it is, if I am part of a vertical which handles what is the total number of chips packets which were manufactured by the company, it may not be something very great, right? The sensitivity is not high. But the moment I am working in a hospital, and what are the, I have certain amount of health information of the clients who are coming, for me it becomes very important because I have to protect the sensitivity. I have to protect the health information of the customers who have come to my hospital. So sensitivity will be defined by many factors. Okay, and one of the major factors for defining sensitivity is by identifying information which is either PII or PHI. What is PII? Anyone?
Personal identifiable information.
Yeah, personally identifiable information. Information which is related to you in person, your name, your address, your email ID, your mobile number, something which can identify you, your KYC number, your social security number, right? That is called personally identifiable information. Personally identifiable information. Now, personally identifiable information is very, very important in today's scenario. It was not so when we were not networked, when our data was not digital, so it didn't matter. But today, look at the amount of advent of cyber crimes happening. Say your Aadhaar card data or your social security number is being used by someone to take a SIM card and carrying out a small terrorist attack, and you will be hassled. Okay, look at if your Aadhaar and PAN has been used by terrorists to buy a SIM card which was used in some kind of a terrorist attack. So that is the connotation, and that's why you have to protect personally identifiable information. And that's where laws are coming in. If in Europe, it's GDPR. In India now, we have DPDP. So we have to be very, very sensitive towards data when it is in digital form and when it is concerning individuals. Now, look at in India, at least there is no respect for personally identifiable information. You log in at one place, share some information, and you'll get 100 calls. Oh, you were looking for some property, or you were looking. Why? Because somebody's sharing your data, somebody's mining your data and selling it somewhere. And that's why DPDP Act is coming because, say I have your information. You guys are training with me. I have 15, you are 15 guys who are training with me right now. I share this information to some HR agency. These 5 guys have trained for CISSP. These are good guys. Now, this is a good angle, right? I can also give this data to some other vendors and say, hey, you can pitch in your products to them. Now, that's your violation of privacy. I should not be, I should be compelled not to sell your data anywhere, whether sell or share. And that is the right of privacy because I have given my information to you in certain trust. If there is no regulation, if there is no law, how do you protect that PII? It was not there, now it is there. So if you look at Europe, if you look at US, very strict laws, okay, as far as GDPR is concerned, as far as Privacy Act is concerned, as far as HIPAA, high tech, other regulations which we will discuss. So protecting PII, the moment you are handling PII, you should be very concerned that you are handling PII. Similarly, you also have personally identifiable data, which is personal health information. Now, you see, there are times when people would suffer from AIDS, and that information is available to everyone in the society, and that person was, unnecessary, I'll say harassed or have some social stigma being carried with PHI. Now, you can. So that's the concept of privacy. Okay, fine. I have certain health issues. That should not become part of not being a human, right? If somebody is suffering from some disease, right, some kind of isolation is required in case that's a communicable disease. That's all okay. But it's my right if I'm not well and I've gone to an hospital or I've gone to some health entity to seek treatment, and you're making business out of it, right? You are sharing that information with some third parties who are making use of it, or you're not protecting that data in proper manner and it is out in the open, right? So this is the importance of PII and PHI. Now, if you are handling PII and PHI, you need to be very, very, concerned that are you able to identify such information inside your enterprise systems, or when you are handling such data, is that data being protected? Is that importance given to that data? Now, one could be PII, one could be PHI, and third data, which could be very important to any organization, is its proprietary data. What is proprietary data? Data which I process. I'm ex-army. I'm very, very concerned about what kind of information I have. What is my strategic assets? What are my tactical assets? What is the capability of the unit which I was handling? I am very concerned. So I used to keep that information very, very protected. So if you look at it, the business sense, I'm Nike. I make Nike joggers once every week. I bring out a model, and that model somebody steals from my company and sells it to people who make fake copies of that in Thailand or in Malaysia, right? So I'm concerned once I'm having proprietary, or imagine I'm a company which does put some billions of dollars in research for a drug and patent it, and then I find that somebody has already leaked that information to my competitors and they are already filed a patent for it, right? So that could be another issue of identifying such data which is critical or important for you. So please have understanding of what is PII, what is PHI, and what is proprietary data. Now, proprietary data is protected by intellectual property rights, right? Could be, right? You can have copyrights, which we discussed last time. You can have, digital. What was that? Digital DMRC, Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA Act. You can protect proprietary data with certain, electronic laws or laws concerning IPRs, patents, trademarks. We saw this, right? Last time we saw this. So you need to understand what kind of data you're handling once you are inventorizing or you're trying to find, okay? If you are going identifying information, identifying sensitive data. Now, once you've identified data, it's very important to classify it, okay? Because if you don't classify information, what happens? If you don't classify information, what will happen is your PII data, your PHI data, your proprietary data, your non-proprietary data, okay, your sales data, everything will be in one level. And you cannot protect everything at one level. A PII, PHI data will require higher precedence than probably non-proprietary data or sales data, which is generally, it's an open data. Everybody wants to know what is your sales data. You're a public limited company. You want to show your sales to chartered accountant. You will file your. Now, these are open secrets. These are not secrets. But PII, PHI. So if you put everything in the same level, you have to apply the same controls, and then imagine your headaches. You have applied the same cryptographic controls even to sales data. Your headache increases, and that's why you need to classify. Another important factor for classification of data is it helps you in identifying. Suppose you had data which is PHI and you marked it as confidential. Okay. So what happens? The moment you marked it as confidential, and the moment you have access to it, your ears automatically ring a bell. The moment you are able to see that confidential is written, and your attention is always given to that. What happens is once you mark a data today in the electronic systems, you can put data loss prevention systems which are reading this small header or a metadata once you have marked or classified that data. It helps you in identifying data if there is some malicious exfiltration of this data from your network. Okay, and that's why classifying data is very, very important. Now, how do you classify data? You classify data using some kind of a classification methodology. Now, in the government sector, generally, or the defense sectors, government sectors, you use a very classical kind of classification, you used to say top secret. Okay. Second is secret. Now, this is as far as US is concerned. This is not applicable to India, or this is US centric because CISSP is more US centric. Then you have confidential, and you have something called unclassified. Okay. And in the civil sector or the business sector, you had you had something confidential, which used to be of the higher precedence, right? Then you had private. Then you had sensitive, and then you had public. Okay. So these are the way in which you can classify the data, right? Now, once you've classified, what is the imperative? What is the meaning of that? Okay. It means that any leakage of the top secret data or confidential data in the civil sector will cause exceptionally grave damage. Exceptionally grave damage. That means if you have classified, KYC data of your Aadhaar data as a critical function, okay, if KYC gets exposed from your end, your business will literally shut down. Okay, so that means that is the importance of the data at your end, right? Now, private data will cause serious damage. It may not cause extreme grave damage. It will cause some kind of a serious damage to your reputation, or in government function, it might cause, some kind of, outage of plans or something. You might have to take your plans back. You wanted to attack the enemy at 7 p.m. Your information is out, and US has intervened, and the attack is stopped. Okay, that could be some kind of a serious damage. Okay, confidential will cause certain amount of damage. It will cause certain amount of damage which may not be critical. Okay, you lost some small data which was not so critical, but still it was of importance to you. And public data is something which will cause no damage. Okay, now you can, in your, if this is as far as ISC2 and CISSP is concerned, in your own organizations, you might be using private as a very, very high classification. Okay, you might say the private is the highest classification, and that will be defined by your own policies inside your organization. Okay, am I clear? Any questions here? Okay, great. So if no questions are there, let's move ahead. Okay, so once you've seen that you've classified data or classified information as per its importance, next is to understand what is the form of the information. Where is the information right now? Okay, now if you look at information today, most of the information once we talk about is generally in the electronic form. Paper exists only in probably government functions and all, but in the corporate and enterprise networks, paper slowly has gone away. It's all digital, right? All information is digital today. So if you look at data has three, I will say, states. Okay, and those states are, first state is data at rest, data in motion, and data in use. Okay, so what is data at rest? Now, the data at rest is when the data is physically static somewhere, right? It might be in your SSD. Okay, it might be in your storage area net. Okay, it might be there in your drive. Okay, USB drives or some kind of drive. It might be there in cloud storage. Okay, it might be there in your, I'll say, what else? Where else all data can be stored? It could be physically written down somewhere, right? What is data in motion? When it is in transit. So how does motion? Okay, how do you protect data when it is at rest? Someone. How can you protect data when it is at rest? Okay, it is in your SSD. How do you?
Encryption, sir.
Okay, encryption. Somebody said. What protection? What protection? Anyone? Physical, right? Somebody might steal this SSD, so you need physical protection also. Somebody might just steal the SSD. Okay, rather than carrying out some hacking, somebody might just come and pick up your computer and walk off. You lose the data, right? So there is physical required, there's encryption systems required. Okay, you might require certain detective controls to see that no physical intrusion takes place. Whatever we read last time, right? Okay, what is data in motion? Yeah, Kiresh? Okay, I think you are. Okay, yeah. Okay, so once the data is in transit, when its data is in motion, what is it? So the data in motion means, when we talked about email systems, data is in some form of signal, electronic or electrical, and passing over some kind of medium, right? That is the meaning. In between, there might be certain systems which are interacting with it. Okay, that is the meaning of data in transit or data in motion. And how do you protect commonly data in transit? Generally, you protect it by in encryption, right? What else? You do physical protection of the media, of the communication media, right? We have firewalls, okay, trying to stop certain kind of attacks when data is in motion. Okay, what else? Okay, we use encryption, right? Major form of protecting the data while it is in transit as of now is encryption. And then when the data is in use, what is data in use? Okay, generally data in use means when it is either on your screens, or it is in an unencrypted form in the memory or inside the CPU or in the buffer. Now this is where you cannot have data in encrypted form, because if you have data in encrypted form, you may not be able to process it. And generally memory doesn't hold encrypted data, right? Because you want to process it. So if your CPU is here and your RAM is here, your SSD, you have encryption but once you pull it into the RAM, there's no point in having encrypted data, because your CPU will not be able to process it. Then you might have to pull this data inside CPU, unencrypt it, and then again put it inside the RAM. Then only there's point. But what happens? There is now risk of somebody attacking the unencrypted data in your memory and taking it out from your working memory or the RAM. Okay, and that's why data in use is very, very prone to attacks which are at system level. If you look at CPUs, bleeding attacks happen when the CPU is processing the data. Somebody is trying to put a malware where you can read the data which CPU is processing, or when the CPU is writing that data into the memory. I would love to read it then, rather than the data going into the hard disk and getting encrypted. Okay, I would love to pick the data either from the CPU or from the RAM. And such attacks are called bleeding attacks. Somebody is trying to bleed data when it is in unencrypted form. Okay, you have only certain controls, but there are systems which are called homomorphic encryption. What is homomorphic encryption is? What it does is, you have a CPU, you have a RAM, you create a virtualization, you create some kind of a virtualized environment inside between the CPU and the RAM to create a virtualized environment to process this data. You create a secure session inside which the data is in unencrypted form. It is achieved by some kind of virtualization, okay, called homomorphic encryption. Basically, you're trying to process the data while being in encrypted form. But logically, you cannot do that. Basically, it's a virtualization of the unencryption platform, so that whenever the attacker is trying to read the data, he is not able to access this virtualized container. Okay. Now, encryption thus therefore becomes a very important part of protecting data in all three states. Okay. Encryption becomes a very major part, and that's why encryption is one of the major part of domain 3, which we will see in next class, right? So that's why you can protect data at rest, in motion, and somewhat in use by using encryption. And that's why we will see encryption in the next class. Okay, any doubt till now? Okay, so first thing is you protected data using its sensitivity, right? What is its sensitivity? PII, PHI, proprietary. Second could be you are protecting data based on certain compliance requirements, or you might have to protect data because there is a compliance on your head that you will protect this data. Now, something like if you look at App Store, okay, App Store has, it collects a lot of college students' data. Okay, because App Store sells certain apps to student community at a lower price. Okay, it comes directly under a regulation called FERPA. We saw it FERPA last time, Federal Education Rights, okay, which protects the information of student. Okay, so there might be in your business requirements, in your organization requirements, to look at even compliance requirement once you are classifying and identifying information. Got it? So there could be sensitivity requirements, there could be compliance requirements. Now, based on this sensitivity and based on this compliance, now you will try to protect this data. Now you will implement data security controls. Based on what? Sensitivity and compliance requirements. These are the two requirements based on which you will, okay, protect your data.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe our channel.